Okay. So welcome everyone. We might just wait a couple of minutes to let a few more people join, as we're a bit early on a Wednesday morning. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes and then we'll kick off. All right, we might get started. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. Today we're going to reflect on how DMARC enforcement has evolved in 2025 and what that reveals about the current state of email authentication, and explore how organisations can move beyond compliance to more of a robust protocol-based email security. So my name is Glenn Folkes. I'm the head of sales and partnerships in Asia Pacific. We're also joined by Assam Bandak, who is our technical director for our global business. And we're going to talk you through the rise of brand impersonation threats and where it fits into your email security strategy. Now, we've got the chat open, so if you've got any questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll come back to everyone afterwards with the answers to those questions. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about the state of email authentication in 2025. We'll talk about some of the, core protocols, which is SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. We're also going to talk about some of the advanced protocols in MT-ASTS, TLS reporting, and BIMI. And we'll talk about a step-by-step maturity scale that's obviously going to help in terms of where your business is at and where you need to be. And as I mentioned, just put questions into the chat. So who is Redshift? We're a global cybersecurity company. We've got operations in the UK, EMEA, the US, and now in Asia Pacific. We've got well over 1,200 customers globally now. And really our role is to help organizations protect their email and domain security. We've built a number of solutions that obviously DMARC being one of those that fits into a unified platform that helps people simplify protecting their email and domain security. So since the introduction of bulk sender requirements, which was sort of Google and Yahoo initially, and more recently Microsoft, we've seen a real uptick in DMARC adoption. In just over 18 months since sort of Google and Yahoo first came out, the number of domains and DMARC records have jumped from 8 million to over 15 million, which is a big jump, which is just showing that mandates from organizations like Microsoft and Google really do move the needle. But here's where we need to pause and think more about how these domains are actually being enforced, and what level of protection that that people are putting on their domains. Because while reporting adoption is high, enforcement is still very low, where we're talking about sort of less than 5% of the world's domains are at enforcement. Especially, when we're talking about either quarantine or reject. A lot of organizations have put P = none, which is kind of where our friends at sort of Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft have really left the policy at reporting only to start with, which is kind of one of the challenges that we've got going forward is, how do we get them to become a little more strict in terms of the adoption of DMARC. So reaching DMARC enforcement is a journey, and it's, it basically comes down to, the effort that teams have to put in to get through that journey. And that's where some of the challenges come in. Teams can lose focus in making sure that they get themselves to reject. I guess the first roadblock is deliverability. They've tried before, enforced too quickly, legitimate emails start bouncing, and that's a common risk, that you jump straight into reject and you're not really understanding the sending sources. But with the right approach in policies, testing, you can actually get yourself through that journey over time. The second roadblock is reporting without enforcement. So teams set DMARC to P equals none, and they feel safe because they're getting reports. But the reality is if there is no enforcement, then you're still going to get spoofed. You're still going to get the challenges that you get. You're just going to have visibility over what you're seeing rather than stopping anything that's coming through. And the third roadblock is relying on email gateways. And email gateways obviously do their part, but the challenge that we have is that many email gateway providers add on DMARC as an afterthought, which makes it sort of complex and manual and becomes hard for organizations to get themselves to a point where they are enforcing DMARC as part of their strategy. So Gartner has been pretty clear that, most organizations still misunderstand how to protect email. And, I guess the standout sort of stat there is that fewer than 10% of domains have DMARC in place, despite it being the baseline for validating corporate email identity. The guidance from Gartner is really about adopt zero trust principles, which includes DMARC, encryption, and MFA. And the second is to make sure that the vendors and people you're working with are integrating well, so that you're not actually getting yourself stuck in terms of things working together properly. If you'd like more information about the full Gartner report, we can share that after the session with everyone that's attended. I guess the important piece here is that there is acknowledgement from Gartner that DMARC really needs to be part of that foundational email security strategy for organizations. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to dive into those protocols and give you more information about how that all works. And I will hand over to Issam to talk you through it.
All right, great. Thanks, Glenn. All right, lots of nitty-gritty stuff to get into, lots of acronyms to untangle and break down for you. So next slide, Glenn. All right, so what is DMARC, right? DMARC is essentially a way for you to protect your exact domain from being spoofed. It's as simple as that. The acronym itself stands for domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. It is an outbound email security standard that helps organizations protect their brand, their employees, their customers from impersonated emails. DMARC essentially tells the receiving mail servers what to do when an unauthenticated email claims to be from your domain. Now, once you get to full enforcement, that policy, those spoofed emails can then be rejected before they ever reach the inbox. Now, email is based on what? SMTP protocol. The SMTP protocol was developed back in the 80s. And that protocol was inherently insecure. Anyone could impersonate a domain and send fraudulent messages as that domain. To combat that, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, and others launched DMARC back in 2012 to give domain owners the visibility and control and to stop those unauthenticated senders in their tracks. So that's what DMARC is. Now, why does it matter? Okay. Next, Glenn. So Glenn talked about Gartner, right? And Gartner positions DMARC as the foundation of a phishing defense, the first layer in a multi-layered approach to email security. DMARC stops the kind of the most damaging attack, the exact domain spoofing, before they even hit that inbox. So by cutting those campaigns at the top of the funnel, you free up your secure email gateway, your account takeover protection, and your awareness training to focus on the more advanced threats. Now, without DMARC, every other layer has to work a little bit harder, and attackers really get an easier way in as well. DMARC isn't really just about security. Kind of Glenn hinted to that as well. By authenticating your legitimate emails, you also improve deliverability, and this was kind of impacted by the bulk sender requirements from Microsoft and Google and Yahoo. So that means more of your messages will land in the inbox with higher open rates, stronger engagement, better ROI. So you get both security and marketing benefits rolled into one. Next, I think. So how does DMARC actually work? There are essentially three main building blocks. You got the DMARC policy and reporting, you got your sender policy framework, or SPF, and you got your domain key identified mail, or DKIM. So what is essentially the flow, right? When an email arrives, the receiving mail server checks whether the sender is authorized to use the visible from address in the domain. To do that, it looks at the results of the two underlying authentication methods. SPF, which checks whether the sending mail server is allowed to send as that domain, and DKIM, which checks the integrity of the message with a digital signature. Then DMARC applies a couple of rules. One, if at least one of those checks pass, SPF or DKIM, and the check that's passing is also aligned with the domain in the visible from address, then the message passes DMARC. Now, if the message doesn't pass alignment, then a policy gets enforced. And that is the policy that you publish on your domain. So it could be none, which is kind of reporting mode, quarantine, or reject. Now, the receiving server also sends a report at the end of the day to the DMARC reporting addresses with the number of emails received for that day. So basically, with DMARC, it gives you two key things, right? Control over what happens to unauthenticated messages, and visibility into who is trying to send on your behalf. Next. Now, the first building block in DMARC is ultimately the policy that you publish in your DNS record. The three options here, we'll just go over them briefly, is policy of none. And we call that monitor mode, where every email still gets delivered, but you start collecting reports that show who is sending on your behalf and whether they're passing authentication or not. So you can identify legitimate email, shadow IT, bad actor sending as you, but not block them just yet. The next policy is policy of quarantine. So this is an enforcement policy, but it's a little bit weaker policy. Messages that fail authentication at this point are sent to the user's spam or junk folder. This gives you kind of a safety net. You can see the impact of enforcement without really blocking anything immediately. And then ultimately, you want to get to a policy of reject, which is the ultimate enforcement. Here, messages that fail authentication are blocked outright and never make it to the inbox. Now, a question that I hear quite a bit from our customers is, if I implement DMARC, is it going to block my legitimate email? And honestly, the answer is no, not if you implement it correctly. DMARC is also designed as a journey, right? You start with a P-none, right? You get that reporting, uncover legitimate services, configure those services. Then you step up to quarantine, see how everything's going. Then you finally get to that reject policy to protect your domain, and you're confident you're not going to block any of your legitimate services. Next. All right. One of the core authentication building blocks as well of DMARC is SPF, or the Sender Policy Framework. SPF is about verifying which mail servers are authorized to send on behalf of your domain. You publish an SPF record in DNS, which works like a list of approved senders. When an email arrives, the receiving mail server is asked, is this IP address allowed or included in this SPF record? If yes, SPF passes. If not, SPF fails. On its own, SPF doesn't really protect, because attackers can still exploit the visible from field to make emails look like they came from your domain. But when SPF is combined with DMARC, an alignment is enforced between the domain in the header and the visible from domain. It becomes a powerful way to stop unauthorized servers from sending on your behalf. Next. The other authentication building block is DKIM. So what is DKIM? DKIM focuses on verifying the integrity and authenticity of an email. When a message is sent, the sending server adds the headers, a digital signature created kind of with a private key that's on the mail server. The receiving server then looks up the corresponding public key, which you publish in your DNS, and then it uses that to check whether the signature matches the message headers and the content. Now, if the signature matches, it means that the message was not tampered with or altered in transit. If the signature doesn't match, DKIM fails. So SPF verifies who's allowed to send. DKIM verifies that the message hasn't been tampered with. Now, together, they're kind of the foundation for DMARC, and then DMARC builds with alignment, builds and enforces on top of that. Now, once you have DMARC deployed and your domain is protected from spoofing, there are other standards available which will help you improve your email security posture and maturity. One such standard is MTASTS TLS reports. So MTASTS, a mouthful, stands for Mail Transfer Agent Strict Transport Security. Wow. It really protects email while it's transit between the mail servers, right? Normally, SMTP connections and ones that use opportunistic TLS can be forced into weaker encryption through a downgrade attack, leaving the messages vulnerable to interception and man-in-the-middle type attacks. With MTASTS, your domain publishes a policy in DNS and over HTTPS that tells the sending servers always use an encrypted TLS connection when delivering mail to my domain, and only connect to the servers that I've listed and authorized in the record. So if a compliant sending server can't meet those requirements, it will refuse delivery rather than fall back to an insecure connection. And then that server also reports are sent as part of the TLS RPT standard that let you know if there are any configuration issues as well in that setup. So in other words, MTSS prevents attackers from stripping away the encryption and ensures that messages are sent to your domain remain private, tamper resistant while in transit. Okay. Next, we have BIMI. BIMI essentially also has a dependency on DMARC. You have to be DMARC enforcement with a policy of quarantine of 100% or reject policy. BIMI is the reward for getting to DMARC enforcement, and it's essentially showing your logo in the inbox. BIMI stands for Brand Indicators for Message Identification. It's really about building that trust and recognition in the inbox. Once you've implemented DMARC, you can publish that BIMI record that allows you to your verified logo to display next to your emails. Now, for recipients, BIMI is a kind of a visual signal that this email really is from your brand, and also provides them with that some level of trust as well. Think about kind of when you're looking at your LinkedIn or X profile and you see that blue check mark, right? It's kind of that level of trust that the user will see. Now, for organizations, it's both a security win and also a marketing win, right? Reducing the risk of impersonation while increasing kind of brand visibility. And we have a bunch of studies on our website that show that BIMI improves open rates, click-throughs, and better ROI, especially for consumer-facing brands, right? Now, until recently, BIMI adoption was really slowed by the requirement for a trademarked logo. Now, since trademarking your logo could take around a year to complete, that was a barrier that has been lowered recently, right? With the introduction of something called the Common Mark Certificates, or the CMC. So any organization can use BIMI as long as their logo has been in use for at least 12 months. Okay. Thanks. Now, I've talked about DMARC, broken it down to the basic parts, all the acronyms that are that exist in that, and some more advanced parts as well. And all of those really to help improve and mature your email security posture. Our on DMARC solution has all those features built in, and you have access and control to everything I've talked about. Our platform gives our customers the fastest path to DMARC enforcement, typically in about 6 to 8 weeks, which is pretty fast in the industry. Your domain gets protected and you're done. On DMARC, UI is built to make reporting really intuitive, right? We make it simple to host and manage your authentication records from SPF, DMARC, DKIM, MTASDS, TLS reports. Also, all while staying under that dreaded SPF 10 lookup limit. You get features that go beyond DMARC with DNS Guardian that helps protect against subdomaining attacks to prevent takeover and emails that bypass DMARC. And of course, for organizations pursuing BIMI, we support fully integrated VMC CMC provisioning, so you can get the verified check mark next to your brand in the inboxes. But more importantly as well, you also get our world-class customer success team. And that is crucial, really, in every DMARC journey. It is important to have a partner, a trusted advisor that will guide you through this journey and get your domains protected the right way. All right, back to you, Glenn.
Thanks, Assam. So, steps to reaching DMARC and beyond. I think the important thing is that it's a journey, as we mentioned before. It starts with the basics, which is putting your reporting in place. From there, you basically configure sending sources, which is then going to help you to move enforcement across both domains and subdomains. And that's where you really start to look at sort of blocking spoofed emails. Once you've reached enforcement, there's additional controls with advanced protocols, as we've mentioned before, with BIMI, MTA, STS, which will both sort of strengthen and build out the brand trust that you're trying to build as part of the journey. And at the top of the maturity scale, you're sort of starting to then stop exact impersonations, so tackling the more advanced sort of lookalike attacks that lead to business email compromise. And so the idea is, step by step, you move from visibility to enforcement, and then that's when you can kind of get to true resilience at the other end of the scale with blocking all the email-based threats. A tool that we have available on our website is our Investigate tool. It's a really good tool to use to get a visibility over, where your domains sit. It's going to give you a broader view of where the gaps are and give you some ideas about the things that you might need to do as part of next steps in your journey for your email and domain security. So please log on to our website and under the free tools, you can go to Investigate or just redshift.com/investigate. So we've come to the end. I'm not sure. Do we have any questions in the chat? I think what we'll do is just come back to everyone at a later stage if there are any questions. Thank you, Assam, for your time today. Thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you all again soon.